Hey guys, welcome to the bot lane. Since this is the first episode, I might as well introduce myself. My in-game name is Indent, and I'm a Diamond 4 AD carry main on EUS. You probably don't know me. If you do, it's from that one Reddit video where I was Twitch and got caught, and then we clean aced them. If you know it, then you know what I'm talking about. I'll leave a link in the description. Now, in this series, we're going to be talking about the bot lane, surprise, surprise, and everything there is to it, basically. So, matchups, maybe wave control, trading, or champion-specific mechanics, everything. You can also leave suggestions if you want to. But, yeah, this first episode might be a bit boring for more experienced players because we're going to try and start from scratch. So, this might be good for new players that don't know anything about who to play in a specific lane and why specific champions are supposed to be played in the bot lane, for example. So yeah, these are going to be the bot lane basics. Let's get to it. Alright, so just for sake of completeness, let's start with the question, where is the bot lane? This might also be good for completely new players that aren't familiar with the terminology. The bot lane is basically a path on the bottom of the map, hence bot lane, and yeah, it describes this whole path from one inhibitor turret to the other inhibitor turret, so from turret 3 to the other turret 3 I've marked on the map, but we're going to be focusing mainly on the part between the turrets 1 and 1, because that's where the majority of the laning phase will happen. So yeah, just to get that out of the way. Alright, so the next question we're going to be dealing with is who goes there, or what champions are played in the bot lane. And that's actually more interesting to think about than you would think, so this might be interesting for more experienced players as well, because obviously the answer is there's one ADC, attack damage carry, or marksman, and a support played in the bot lane. So yeah, these are both different types of champions that I'm going to be going more into detail about later, but why this is the case is basically because the meta dictates that. And the meta, well, it's basically how the game is played best. So it's best to have an attack damage carry and support in the bot lane. It's most efficient. And it's been that way for a long time. Even in the Season 1 World Championship final, they already had an attack damage carry and a support in the bot lane, as we can see in this clip. But obviously the answer, well, the meta dictates it, is often not really satisfying. So let's go a bit more into detail as to why exactly there is an ADC and a support in the bot lane. First of all, does a team even need an attack damage carry? The answer is yes. It needs a heavy AD source, well, to output sufficient damage in teamfights and win the game. So yeah, that's necessary. The thing with an ADC though, and I've given some examples of, or all examples of ADCs here, is that they're terribly bad early game. They would probably get beaten by any champion other than another ADC in a 1v1 situation. Maybe there are some exceptions, but in the grand scheme of things, that's the case. So they scale well with gold and AD, but they're terrible early game. The team needs one, however. So the support role emerged. And the support, as the name says, is then, of course, meant to support the attack damage carry in their bad early game. So yeah, this is the reason for why the attack damage carry is necessary in the first place, but also for why this two-player lane dynamic is the most efficient way, because yeah, as said, the support needs to compensate for the AD carry's poor early game. So the only why question we're left with here is why the bot lane? Why don't these two champions play in the mid lane or in the top lane? And since the meta develops quite naturally, it's hard to pinpoint reasons, but one could assume that they don't play in the mid lane because it's in the center of attention. It's far too vulnerable to ganks from both sides, and that's especially bad for immobile champions, and many ADCs are immobile, like Ashe or Jinx, so that might be the reason for that. Of course, if you have TP ganks all the time, then you're vulnerable in the bot lane as well. But that might be a reason for why they don't play in the mid lane. And as far as the top lane goes, they could play in the top lane, and we've seen lane swaps in LCS as well, where they just switch up to the top lane. But Dragon is a major early game objective, and it's usually better to have 2 players near Dragon instead of 1, and then have the 2 players up top near no early game objective. And there's something I have to add at this point. An apology to all the newer players, because I've already used so much terminology that you would maybe not know. But that's perfectly okay, because all you have to know is that an attack damage carry and a support play in the bot lane to make it most efficient. And these why is everything the way it is questions aren't as important at this point. And maybe when you look back at this video later, it'll all make sense to you eventually. So don't worry. All you have to do is maybe, try some of these champions out. Maybe some attack damage carries, Ashe, maybe Ezreal, Jinx, and support, Bard. Probably not Bard, but Braum or Leona. And have fun with those champions. Now we will definitely have to take a look at the concept of the bottom lane. First of all, like any other lane, the concept is basically to farm, so to kill the minions, get kills, and take the towers usually. There are only very few instances where you wouldn't take the tower. However, because of this 2-player dynamic, the concept changes a bit. And yeah, the adapted concept for bot lane is that the AD, so the marksman, gets all the kills and the farm, and the support supports. The advantages acquired in lane are then, of course, meant to be used to snowball into the mid game. So what that means is basically that you take the advantages you got in lane over your enemy laner and transfer them into a team advantage over the enemy team. So maybe if you got fed in lane, you try to carry a team fight or use your advantage to push turrets. Now, in the life of every AD carry, you'll come across these hipster supports saying something along the lines of, but what if we gave the support all the gold? And I'm just going to quickly tell you why it's not a good idea to give the support all the gold. The reason we give the AD all the gold is because of the difference in kit between the 2 roles. The kit of an attack damage carry is heavily based on auto attacks or spells that scale with AD. So gold is greatly needed because the only way you acquire that attack damage is obviously through buying items, for which gold is heavily needed. And when you look at the supports kit, it's heavily based on CC, aura, or mobility spells. So, for example, Thresh's Q is CC, Thresh W is mobility, and his E and his R are also obviously CC. And the CC, aura, or mobility part of the spell is completely independent on champion stats, so gold. The damage might scale with gold, but that's not the important part of the spell. The important part of the spell is the CC part, for example, and that works just as well without any gold. So that's the reason we give the attack damage carry all the gold in lane, please. Alright guys, that's it for this episode of the bot lane. If you have any questions or suggestions for the next episode, just leave them in the comments, and see you.